welcome everybody. Today we're going to be doing a work from anywhere themed roundtable. My name is Luke Pretty. I'm in charge of content and education at Yodo1, and we have some members of our team here to share their experiences, because at the beginning of this year, which is 2021, it's 2021, right? Sometimes it feels like I have to remind myself it's like a simulation. So we're going to be talking about work from anywhere culture, because that's what we do. And it's been really interesting. We transitioned very recently, so we're all kind of adjusting, and I'm hoping that we'll have some interesting insights. But what I'd like to do is just quickly go around and have everyone, not in a 5-minute spiel, but just quickly introduce yourselves and say who you are. Why don't we start with Chris?
So I'm Chris Dossman. Nice to meet everyone. And I am a team leader for the solutions team. We help bring data science, automation, and AI to solve specific challenges in our organization.
Very cool. Evelyn, I'm just going down the list.
Hi, I'm Evelyn. I'm the social media manager. I'm part of the marketing team at Yodo1.
Awesome. Flo?
Hey guys, my name is Flo Alcasis, and I've been doing a lot of different things at Yodo1, and now I'm doing HR and recruiting.
Awesome. Greg?
Hi guys, my name is Greg Getter. I'm a product manager at Yodo1, and I'm based in Philadelphia in the US.
You still have snow over there, Greg?
Very little.
Very little. Yeah, it's melting, which is good. John.
Yeah, my name is John Harris, and I'm the product manager for Report Gen here at Yodo1.
Okay, very cool. Marina?
Hello, everyone. I'm Marina. I am heading the business development and customer success teams at Yodo1. I am in Barcelona, and all my team is around the world, so very happy to be here.
That includes us, right? Are we included in that?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, some of us.
My
all
team.
Right. Ricardo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ricardo, and I am working in the marketing team here at Yodo1, and I am based in Parma, Italy.
Awesome. We're all over the place. Nobody's where I am. I'm in New York, by the way. It's also kind of snowy and cold. So maybe to just kick it off, and feel free to just voice your opinions. I mean, unless we need to do the hand raise thing, we'll abstain from doing that. We might need to if someone gets unruly. But I'd like to just keep it more freestyle. So since we've recently done this, I'm wondering, what are some of the things that you guys like about doing work from anywhere? You get to go wherever you want. You could be in a hostel, you can be in your house, or be in a noisy room. And what are some of the things you dislike about it? Does anyone want to add to that?
I can start with something I like.
Sure.
One of the things I like the most, that I can organize my day with more freedom than I did before. Mm-hmm. I used to go to the office, and I knew, like, from 9 to 9 or whatever, from 9 to 7, I would have to be working there, right? Now, if I have something to do in the morning, then I can say, okay, I'm going to start a bit later. I feel like I have more freedom to organize my day in a way that fits better other things that I have to do, so I can be somewhere else if I need to. And that's something I really appreciate.
So do you find that because you're choosing your time that you're actually more efficient, or is it just a better feeling?
I think I don't have to say no to everything that happens during the day. Let's say if someone says, hey, let's go for lunch, or hey, can you help me go pick up this or that? I don't have to say no because I'm working. Yeah, sure, let me find some time in my schedule and I can help. So I don't think I'm necessarily more efficient, but I feel like I don't have to say no all the time to all the things that are not work. And I think that is helpful to see my friends and family, and also to do my other things I need to be doing.
I thought that was one of the best things about work. I'm sorry I can't. I'm busy. That's the greatest excuse there is.
Right?
Yes, I love that excuse. Now
Yeah,
that everyone knows. No,
until people replies to you, yeah, I also work and I find time to do it, right? And you're like, okay, it's true.
Well, then you have to say, I'm sorry, what you asked me is not a priority and I don't want to do it.
Yeah, well, then you start losing friends.
Right, yeah. Okay, Chris, I guess we're doing hands now, so hands it is.
I wanted to. Okay. Probably the best. Well, the thing I didn't like the most actually about working in an office, and the thing I liked the most, it's like two sides of the same coin, was the interruptions from people. I feel like I'm way more productive just because I can actually focus on one thing for 30 minutes or an hour, which would be kind of difficult in an office setting because there's always someone around or a distraction just waiting right next to you. But at the same time, actually, that's the thing I miss the most. Like I do miss being able to go out and talk to someone, a friend, a colleague, and just chat. And that's a little bit more difficult nowadays.
So more for the social component of it, and the trade-off being maybe the distraction would cause you to not be able to do something. But now that you've had the other side, you would prefer the distraction.
Well, it's a little bit social, but it's also work related. Like I'm listening all the time, and like in random conversations that are happening in the office can sometimes shed light on things that you're thinking about. And that just doesn't happen unless you're constantly reading all of the threads in Ding Talk, which can get a little bit much.
Well, that's something I hope we can get to. But yeah, I want to go to anyone else who wants to share something, because the efficiency, of reading 1,000 chats when you wake up in the morning is certainly something. Not always the most convenient way to make sure you know everything. Greg?
One of the most obvious benefits of working from home or working from anywhere is you don't have to commute to work. Instead of commuting for 15 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour and a half, it's bed to desk, which makes it harder to set boundaries, but you save yourself, just hours per week that you would be basically doing nothing in a commute.
Yeah. I mean, the boundaries thing, I think, is a tough one for a lot of people. Is that something that you're getting better at over time? Do you think you're improving in that, or is it just becoming this fuzzy mess of life and work? And then I want to ask Flo about this, because Flo made a video about it, so I want to know what Flo thinks. But yeah, Greg, are you finding it more?
I would say that whenever you're starting a new project, it's very hard to set boundaries. But the more you get into a project, the easier it becomes. But, since at Yodo1, we're changing a lot frequently, you're always constantly resetting those boundaries. So yeah, it's definitely a struggle for me, for sure. But I still think the trade-off of not having to go to work every day is quite a benefit.
Yeah. Okay. I see, Ricardo, you have your hand up, but I want to just quickly ask Flo this, because you made a video about this, I know. You have tips for this, but is this something that you still struggle with, or have you mastered it, and can you teach us all how to do it? I definitely struggle with it. 100%.
Definitely still struggling with it. I mean, when I made those videos, I was working part-time, and now I'm full-time. So big difference. And
how convenient.
Yeah, I agree completely with Marina, and that you can, you're much more flexible. For me, it's like, taking my daughter to school or picking her up or reading with her. I can block time out for that. but I do have to, like, lately I've been pushing myself, and my catch is like I'll make it a promise. I'll tell her like, okay, from like dinner until her bedtime, I won't touch work. And when I make that like a verbal promise, then it's like, okay, now I can't because I promised. But it's still, you know, you're like, you want to go back in and do this, and there's a message popping up from someone in the US who's just starting when everyone else is finishing, and you know, that whole cycle. It's definitely a constant struggle. But
well, I want to get into the time zone stuff later, and I hope you have some things to add there, because that is definitely a challenge. You say to yourself, well, I know that if I wait another 24 hours, this is going to basically fail, and I promised myself I wouldn't be checking my phone right now, but I don't want it to fail, so I'm going to just look at my phone just this once every single time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's tough. Ricardo?
Yeah, I just wanted to I mean, sort of finish off before we go more into the time zone thing with what Chris said about the constant interruptions. So in Italy, we have a show called Camera Cafe, which it talks about a coffee machine, and basically there is a camera in the coffee machine, and you see all of the work and coffee and like interactions happening in this sort of coffee machine. So I think, you know, and this is definitely something that we're trying to improve at Yodo1, is also finding these moments where we can be social with each other, you know, and not just talk about work, essentially because, especially me, I have never met in person, apart from Evelyn, anybody in this room. So also getting to know each other as people, not just as colleagues, it's something that I find, you know, an interesting challenge to think of, you know.
For sure. Yeah. Is that coffee machine, do they have releases? Everybody's signed releases, or is this a secret thing? That sounds like a kind of a creepy show.
Well, it's like a comedy show, but basically it just shows that the life of an office as it used to be 10 years ago revolved around the coffee machine. And I find that to be the case when I was working in Italy. Every single meeting I had with my boss was in front of the coffee machine. That's just how it happened. And you just need to, you know, be very mindful of how you replace that in the virtual space.
I think here the analogous thing would be the water cooler. That's what you stand around, which I've never quite understood. Just sitting with a paper cup and some ice cold water that's too cold to drink. The coffee is way better. All right. Does anyone want to add anything else about just the overall feeling of doing work from anywhere? If not, I want to get into. Yeah, Evelyn, sure.
Yeah, I do feel like it is a little bit isolating because, yeah, same reason, haven't met anyone, any of my colleagues, and since we're all around the world, it kind of feels like, oh, when will I ever meet my colleagues, you know? And it's hard to get to know everyone on a personal basis.
I wonder if eventually we'll do sort of meet in one place. I mean, right now, if someone's watching this in 5 years, we're still in the COVID thing, so we might hopefully be able to do some sort of yearly event where we all congregate and play pinball and drink coffee or whatever we decide to do. That would be awesome. The only person I've ever met is Chris. I don't know if Chris even remembers it, but I've met Chris twice, I think. Okay. Chris says in the chat, come to my farm. What do you grow, Chris?
Hopes and dreams.
Hopes and dreams. Hopes and dreams. Is it harvest season or are we planting?
We harvested a little bit earlier than anticipated. You know, GameStop and all of that.
Right. Yeah. Uh-oh. I hope everything's okay with that. Hold Doge. That's the key. What are some of the efficiency tips? I know we've talked about, you know, drifting and not having a clear line between work and life. But just in general, it doesn't even have to be for the work-life thing. Some of the efficiency things that you've learned personally through actually doing it, not sort of in theory, but just on your own, some things that you've learned from experience that help you to be a little bit more efficient working from home. And then if you want to tie that specifically to your domain, I think that would be pretty cool. So maybe someone who's watching this who does the same kind of work can get something out of that, what you've learned, right? So for example, I learned just today, make sure I know exactly what the cap is for recording a roundtable before sending the link to everybody, so that I don't have to scramble at the last moment. I learned that. Test it very carefully first. Does anyone have anything that they've learned through either hard lessons or just through doing it over time and iterating and trying new stuff? Flo made a video about this. Who's raising his hand? Hey, Greg, you know that there's a raise hand button you can push. I can't see.
I have a real hand, Luke.
I mean,
okay, fair enough.
But I can't
I'll
see
learn
on
how
the
to
screen
use
all the
it.
time because I'm using the.
I'll learn how to use it.
So I don't see everybody. Yeah, Greg, come on.
I have a real hand.
I know.
Yeah, I got you. The one thing is, our chat program, or any chat program really, has really annoying notifications. So even if you were to use a Slack type program, I recommend turning off the sound, because it's incredibly frustrating and distracting to hear the sounds all day long, and you feel obliged to go check all the time. Now, I'm still one to go check compulsively a million times a day, and I have to get better at that. But at least turning the sound off and turning off the notifications is a good way to put communication in its own bucket and get to communication when you can get to communication. The other thing that's really helpful is time boxing. So you try to book your meetings into a certain time of the day, or if you have a Calendly style link where you give out your link to people, don't put a super wide availability, make it flexible enough for some people, but make sure you respect your own ability to do deep work as well.
That's good. I mean, the Ding Talk thing and any sort of chat, I think if you answer everything immediately, I've realized this, if I answer everything immediately, I will get almost nothing done. So if I set a window where I say, I will not check my messages for this hour where I'm doing this thing, that really helps. That helps me a lot, just saying I'm not available at this time, because we're not on call exactly, right? I mean, we're not neurosurgeons. So it's helpful to draw that small line. Marina?
Yeah, thank you. I want to follow up with what Greg said, because I've been struggling a lot with this notification Ding Talk thing, especially because of the time zone. I usually wake up when there's I just see a 99 plus every morning when I wake up in Ding Talk, and that already freaks me out.
Thousands of things to read.
Yeah, and I keep opening chat, and the 99 plus is still there. So I'm like, okay, where is that group that people have talked so much, So what I do now is I turned off not only the sound, but even notifications on my screen in the phone. Because I don't know if you guys have Ding Talk on your phone, but I do, which is good because then I can use it if I need to, but I have all the notifications off. After I watched Netflix social media documentary, I basically turned off all notifications in general, but that helps me. So when I'm disconnected, I am really disconnected, and I actually talk to my team about this very openly. We talk often about how these ongoing conversations are a bit stressful, and we all agree to having them off, so when we're not working, we don't have to check. Apart from that, unrelated to the chat, what works very well for me, because I have a few teams now, is having the weekly one-to-one with each of the team leads, and keeping that same time, same structure every week. So not saying, oh, tomorrow we can do it on Monday, next week we can do it on Tuesday. Have a very fixed time for the one-to-ones with every team lead. So everyone knows that's the time to keep each other updated and discuss the really important things. And the meeting always follows a similar structure. And that helps me have this weekly touch base time. where I know that if I miss something in the chat, they're going to bring it up when we meet face to face. So end of the day, I rely more on those than on the 1,000 messages in the groups.
In theory, that would also possibly mean those people aren't talking to you about important things just randomly throughout the week because they know they have a slot for you and they know that they can talk about that serious stuff with you at that specific time. Is that the case for you?
Yeah, I mean, if something is very urgent, they will say, hey, can we have a quick chat about this, right? But usually we keep like a running list of like one-to-one topics. And if there's something they want to add, they will add it. So when the meeting time comes, we already know which are the topics that we wanted to discuss. So unless it's super urgent, we keep it for then. Yeah, and it works very well. It works well.
Yeah, that's cool. And I hope I can also hear from Greg at some point on the async stuff, because Greg is really good at that, and that's I think pretty relevant to the work from anywhere decision making style. If anyone doesn't know, by the way, when we say Ding Talk, that's what we use to message. That's our work chat platform. It's great. Flo, I see your hand up.
Yeah, on Ding Talk, I agree with Marina. Like I went back and forth on this, but I've turned off notifications completely for my phone. Definitely nothing makes sound. And what I'll do is I'll use like pinning. So all the stuff that like is, my like kind of top priority, I'll pin to the top. And any groups I'm a part of that I'm not really actively involved in, I'll just keep them muted. So you only see the pop-up if you're like called out individually, which is why I actually almost missed this meeting invite. But and I also use the to-do function where if something pops up in chat and it's kind of like, someone needs you to do something, you don't forget about it, but you also shouldn't be doing it right away, then you can make it a to-do and you can put a little deadline on it and then it pops up again later. So I've had some success with that as far as making the whole kind of chat thing a little more manageable.
Well, Flo, just to sort of follow up, I mean, specifically for what you do, you are hiring people and you have built a process or are building a really interesting process that allows us to hire people without physically meeting them. Do you want to speak to that? I mean, is it a challenge that can be overcome so that we can actually, is it possible to actually get good people making decisions in the distributed way that you do?
To hire people without meeting them?
Yes, but also, yeah, you have different people in different places, interviewing people and coming in from all over the place. So yeah, how do you, I mean, just in terms of hiring specifically, how have you managed that from the work from anywhere framework?
I mean, I haven't been it hasn't been only since I started in hiring that we've been doing this. I mean, I think probably half of the people in this call were hired remotely, myself included. And yeah, it's, we use tools like Video Ask to get to know people. The system we're building is for automatic scheduling, and we do, each interviewer does a Zoom call. We record all the calls. We keep all the records in one place so the team can review and at the end make a decision. And, we're working on better onboarding, and we're getting more and more people from around the world joining. So our culture and our approach is kind of slowly growing and changing as well. But I'd say it's absolutely doable. You don't have to meet someone in person to, get to know their character or their skill sets.
Yeah, I mean, I was involved a little bit when we were bringing someone on, and doing the video ask was very useful, just to be able to see how someone responds in video. That was a good experience, and it does kind of feel like meeting someone in person, except it's asynchronous. So that's actually what I want to talk about next. Some of these things either either automating tasks or meeting or making decisions asynchronously is something that we're working on in different areas. For example, on the video side, for the topics that we decide to do, we just have people add what they think is cool, and then we vote on it and then make a decision based on that, based on what gets voted up. That way we don't have to have a meeting about it. We don't have to all sit around and talk about something that can just as easily be decided by votes and people adding their opinions over time when they have time. So does anyone want to speak to meetings, making decisions, managing processes because it's remotely in an asynchronous way or in an automated way? Because I think we do some cool stuff around that, and I'd like to get into it a bit. Greg? Got the hand up. I can see it.
I found it. They moved
Nice.
it from the participants view, Luke. It's in the reactions view now.
There are different versions, I think. People are, because some of the hands I see look different from the others.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing people's different, because your hand is the yellow hand, but then I saw a different one. Anyway.
This is another topic for another day, but A/B testing is something that a lot of software companies do. So I would not be surprised if they're testing out different things on us. And it's actually a really important thing. But back to async, I actually don't think that every meeting should be asynchronous, but there's definitely a place for it. Asynchronous meetings are for deciding on things. Synchronous meetings are for brainstorming, in my mind. So, asynchronous is where we share a Word document and we want everybody to chime in with one idea or one sentence or what do you think about this? And synchronous is where, hey, let's think about the strategy. Let's have a blue sky session. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. So just there's a time and a place for a meeting, but it's important to know when to have a meeting and when to make a decision or add ideas, and a meeting is not necessary, right?
The other aspect of that is, even if you are having a meeting, it's much better to prepare people for the meeting. So either to come up with a bullet point agenda, or if it's something that's a more in-depth topic, you might prepare a Word doc or record a short video on Loom with a presentation, so that before the call, everybody's up to speed. So we don't spend half the call, teaching about it and then get derailed because somebody asked a question because they didn't understand something.
Greg, I regard you as my sensei of preparing for meetings and doing things asynchronously, just because of the looms and making decisions in that way and having background documents. The idea of having to condense your thoughts down to a 3 or 4 minute video before you have a meeting and make everyone watch that before they can join is actually really powerful, because it brings everyone into the meeting on the same page and also probably reduces the time needed for the meeting. So that's I think been very effective. Marina, and then I want to after Marina and Ricardo, I want to get on to another subject.
Okay, yeah, I'll be quick, because this is a topic that we've discussed sometimes with Chris and Greg here, who I know are super fans of async, and I fully agree that for preparing meetings, it's great. I mean, it helps everyone get on the same page, and then the meeting can be more efficient. But I will also say that synchronous meetings, at least for me, it helped me a lot understand how the team is doing. It also allows a bit more of like chit chat, and that gives me a sense of how they are doing, how their morale is, if they are feeling low, if they are feeling well, what are they struggling with. So I think like fully replacing all all synchronous meetings is also not the way, because then you lose all this personal connection that you guys were all agreeing you miss on a day-to-day, right? So if you do all async, then that is completely gone. So I think a balance is fine, and especially for being on the same page before the meeting, but I still appreciate a lot having time with my team, with colleagues, with managers in general. And just to wrap this topic up, I do see that from when we were in the office and now, we got much more efficient in meetings when it comes to more clear communication, having a specific agenda, keeping the meetings on time, having CTAs after the meeting. When we were at the Yodo1 office, it was more of like, yeah, let's go into the room. And what was supposed to be 20 minutes, Chris knows, ended up being like 1.5 hours. No one was taking notes. It was never recorded. People who was not in the room could not be updated. So I think we got much better on that sense.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I'm sort of comparing this to, because I live in a home where 2 people are working remotely, myself and my wife, and she works in a company that has meetings all day long. And some of the things that they have meetings about, it's just insane that they're having a meeting about these things. And it's an hour, and it ends up being 7 hours of meetings, basically. And comparing that to how we do things, I feel like we're really getting better at knowing when to have meetings, what to have meetings about, when not to have meetings, and what not to have meetings about. And I mean, I'm sure we'll continue to get better at that, but I think it's good for productivity, definitely. Greg, you want to hop in quickly, and then I want to get into another topic.
Yeah, just meta work from home, work from anywhere. Both my girlfriend and I work remotely, and we had always lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, which was very challenging for doing Zoom calls at the same time, because somebody's in the kitchen, somebody's sleeping, both people want to be on a call at the same time. So having a 2-bedroom apartment now is much, much better for that. I know not everybody can make that upgrade, but if long-term you're going toward a remote work situation, you might want to consider something like having an extra bedroom.
Just buy a mansion and then it'll be fine, right?
Or a farm.
I can second that.
Or a farm.
It's really important to have an extra bedroom, even a tiny one, for quiet calls. Same in my house.
Yeah. A farm filled with hopes and dreams really does keep it's a good buffer. It protects you. It's like a shell. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about something slightly broader, and I saw Ricardo's hand up, so hopefully you can get in on this as well. Just in general, let's sort of step out of Yodo1 for a second and talk about the weird experience that we're having. I don't know about you guys. I'm in New York. I feel like I haven't left my apartment in a year. I have, but it just feels like I haven't. It's weird. And it's just because of the pandemic that we're in. And I'm wondering if anyone wants to share any experiences about this, because I know we're in different places and there are different rules in different places. But if anyone wants to share any pandemic experiences related to work, I would like to hear them. But also in general, I'm curious if you guys think that this is now becoming a permanent thing in terms of the way that we work. I mean, and I don't just mean Yodo1, in general, is because of the pandemic changing habits for good, or will people go back to the way things were? Will we all go back to the office and say, oh, that was a weird year, I don't know? Or is it different now for good? And that's just the way it is. And when the pandemic is over, we still keep doing this exactly as we're doing it, except now I can go to Buffalo Wild Wings without a mask. I'm just curious. I don't know. I don't really have an opinion, but I'd like to hear yours. Chris?
Yeah. So I think, everyone knows the old adage, it takes 20 days to build a new habit. Well, we've had quite a few more than 20 days. And so I think just from that, the momentum of, it's going to keep a lot of people working from home. I mean, I just think, man, for families, for people who want to travel, this is the only way that you can have that. You can have your cake and eat it too. Is remote work. There's no other way around it.
Do you think it's going to stick for good?
It's going to stick for good, and it's going to accelerate there's going to be a dip, right? Once companies open up, but it'll be like 3 months or 6 months, and then everyone will be like, wait a minute, why are we paying $20,000 per employee to have an office when we can just give them like $5,000 and then they can have their own home office set up that is way better than anything you can have at the office. Yep. The economics just don't make sense, and I feel like just from the cost perspective alone, we're gonna stay in remote. That's sad face for New York real estate.
Yeah. No kidding. Well, I'm sure they'll I don't know. So in the future, your office will just be the coffee machine, Ricardo's coffee machine, and people will just go and stand around that for, once a week and then go back home.
If I had to guess, and I'll just add really quickly to this, and I did guess because I bought the farm, I think what we're going to see is just the building up of small communities in low-cost areas, regardless of they're in the U.S. or Canada, or Europe, or Vietnam. We'll just find these work-based communities that are centered around like specific skill sets and specific industries, and that's really what we're going to be seeing. It's what I'm trying to build in New York, anyway.
That's cool. I mean, when you say bought the farm, you mean that literally, right? You don't mean the expression bought the farm, right?
No, yeah, like I bought a farm to build that type of community because I think that's where the work.
That's cool. A farm of hopes and dreams. Ricardo?
Yeah, I have a quite different view on that because, I mean, we're lucky to be in such a global industry where geographical borders don't really matter, but for a lot of companies that still does. I think, we're going to be seeing more of an hybrid model. And I want to talk about a company here, Revolut, which is a fintech company, and they have completely revolutionized the way they think about offices. So they're opening what they call labs where, you can go or you cannot go. That's merely your choice. But the employees, they all have a hub to meet if they want. So this model where, you can potentially meet people in these labs or in these spaces that are thought differently. So that's really powerful, I think, for a lot of companies. And it's surely less of a shock for a lot of people that still need the social element of being able to see people face to face, because I mean, it's also, it takes time to get used to working remotely, and not everybody manages to make it. So I think, it's not going to be like a shock thing where everybody, will continue to work remotely 100% after the pandemic, but we're really going to be thinking like, does the office like this one we have now make sense? Probably not. And so we're going to be seeing really some very cool, innovative stuff around that. And I'm very looking forward to seeing that.
I would also be interested to see then an increase in the average home size because, well, in addition to what Chris was saying, I want to be in a bigger house because if we're both working at home, it's going to drive me nuts if we're in a smaller house. I would imagine that the average square footage of houses that people own will go up. Flo?
Just a quick comment on what Chris was saying. It's funny about companies investing a lot in their offices. Like my brother works for a media company in Amsterdam, and right before COVID, they had built a huge office. And they're the kind of company, you go to the office, there's always beer in the fridge. People will stay there sometimes until midnight. They're hanging out, they're chatting. It's very social. And now, like for a year, everyone's been at home, and, whether or not or when that office will ever go back. I think like people like my brother and his team, the moment the office opens again, they're going to be really happy to be there instead of in their tiny Amsterdam apartments. But yeah, I think probably companies are going to be going hybrid, and others are going to be looking for those kind of work hub solutions where you have a little space where you can meet up. But I know a lot of people who never want to go back, and other people who still can't wait.
Well, that makes me think of it being different in different countries and even cities as well. Like, for example, in China, people went back a lot earlier, and as a result, maybe those habits didn't form for a lot of companies in the way that they're happening here, because we have no choice. So when I say here, I mean New York, and I'm sure in other places where you guys are. So I think in a couple of years the patterns will be more pronounced. I saw, Marina, your hand up. Do you want to add something on that before we go to the last point?
No, it's good. I fully agree with Ricardo and Phil about the hybrid model. A lot of companies, what they're doing here, from friends who work in Barcelona, they are just renting a part of a co-working space. So not all employees go there the same day, right? But you can book your space and book a table or book a seat for one day, and your team can do as well. So not everyone can go work there the same time, but there's a few tables for people if they want to go and book it. That's what I would love to be able to do if I could. If I could choose, I wouldn't be doing work from anywhere always. I would love to have the choice to go to the office sometimes and not go. I mean, I am not a lover of 100% work from home. I prefer the hybrid model, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why it's called work from anywhere instead of work from home, because some people, I think it's very reasonable, don't want to be home all the time. It's insane to be in the same place. Yeah. Like I said, I've been in my apartment for the last year, and it's insane. It's not normal. Yeah. Well, I hope we haven't had much from Evelyn, and I haven't heard from John yet, so I hope you guys can jump in on the last point, or if you have anything to add or share. This is something I should probably not admit, but I don't know the answer at all, because I haven't seen the numbers. I'm not quite sure. So I wonder if any of you have a sense for how the pandemic has actually affected the gaming industry, especially the mobile gaming industry. And is that, if that's related to specifically your domain, that would be great. But those of you who have seen more numbers or know it, I'm just curious, are people playing way more games, mobile games? Is it the same as before? Yeah, Evelyn?
So I don't have a number exactly, but I know that PC gaming is skyrocketing, and PCs are super expensive. So the fact that people are like investing in their PCs just to game, not just for home offices, means that surely mobile gaming is also increasing, because everyone already has a mobile phone, even children. So if everyone's kind of stuck at home, there's nothing much to do. I feel like mobile gaming is definitely skyrocketing. And even in the last Apple keynote thing, they did a big collab with a huge mobile game. So I think the esports industry is also going into mobile, and yeah, it's getting bigger.
Do you know, Evelyn, if streaming has had a bump as well? I mean, obviously it was.
Oh yeah, I think 2020 was Twitch's biggest year, and Twitch is the world's largest streaming platform for gaming, so that's a good indicator.
Yeah. But I'm also seeing not only gaming, a lot of gaming content, but a lot of just regular types of
even
streams.
like IRL content. Yeah, because some places you can stream in real life. Like, for example, Australia, we don't have such strict pandemic rules. Unfortunately, we have really bad internet though, so you can't really stream IRL here. But yeah, it's really interesting to see what other people do IRL, since the other half of people are stuck inside.
The whole country has bad internet?
Yeah, it's ridiculous, because I'm pretty sure Australia invented Wi-Fi. We have the worst internet.
That's a shame. That's a real shame.
Yeah.
What do you mean by bad? Like 4 megabits?
Yeah, it's 4G, but it's just super slow, and especially for gaming. Like, we have one server in Sydney. I have like super high ping, which is ridiculous for shooting games.
Marina, I see your hand up.
Well, I think John was before me. So
I didn't see
John.
John's
Go first.
hand. John, did you raise?
He used his real hand. He used his real hand.
Yeah, I use my real hand.
How dare you? How dare you?
We're over physical hands, guys. No more real hands are a thing of the past.
Yeah, I
Cut 'em
don't even
off.
see a hand. I just see the clapping signal and the thumbs up. So that's all I have on my side. I don't know what's up there. But
Greg
yeah, sorry I've
established
been
we're
so
all in an A/B test, so we're like gerbils, and Zoom is testing different things on us, and unfortunately, you're one of the no hand test branches.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, sorry I've been so quiet. I've just been enjoying listening to everyone talk. I feel like I'm just kind of just listening. Yeah, just thinking about games, maybe in a broader sense. At the start of the year, I think the moment really the pandemic started, Animal Crossing, the new version came out on the Switch. And it was just interesting watching how big it became, because it was almost like a way for everyone to kind of socialize without having to actually meet in person. And I think that's kind of the beauty of gaming, how even though everyone is in their own little area, their own little space, through the gift of internet and again, all these different mediums to play video games, especially mobile gaming, we're able to kind of almost spend time together with people that we can't meet with. So with that said, I think there has been a huge boom for gaming this year. And yeah, I think it's a pretty cool thing to see.
Yeah, it is cool. And not only social gaming, but also I don't think that we would have had Clubhouse without all of this. Like, Clubhouse is a product, I think, of when you open a Clubhouse notification, you're in a chat with someone and you don't even get to choose to be in the chat. You're already there. It's kind of it's kind of scary, but it's pushing the envelope of what we're used to. Oh, we're actually just talking and then I can get off whenever I want to get off. It's changing the way that we think, and I think we wouldn't be there without this huge shift. I'm going to give the last point to Marina if nobody else has anything to add, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Thank you. So as you asked in your question, what was the effect that this pandemic had? Because we've been monitoring quite closely how downloads and how numbers were going during this year. And what I remember is that Q1, especially February, March, the downloads peak big time. I think like overall Q1 closed around plus 30% downloads wise, and especially because when kids were not going to school, that had a big impact in downloads and daily active users, etc. So it's been interesting to see. Then summer, I think it went down a little bit because there were less restrictions. It also changed depending on the countries, right? When a certain country is in lockdown, then the numbers there would go up. Then another country is out of lockdown, then it kind of goes back to normal. So it was interesting to see. And what a lot of people were saying too, both for adults and kids, is that the fact that you could not have a lot of social interactions made it more interesting to actually have interactions through games. So for example, kids could still play with their classmates through games, even if they were not seeing each other, right? So replacing real life social interactions for gaming social interactions was something that was happening. And also, one last thing that I find very interesting is that even brands or singers were started to use games for promoting their new albums, or Gucci did a campaign with a mobile game a few months ago. There was an album that was released for the first time in Fortnite, I believe. So real
That's cool.
live brands and singers and whatever more things that are going to come are using games for getting to new audiences now that maybe having it on the street doesn't have the same impact. So I think all these things kind of like happen faster because of COVID.
So the some of the traditional watering holes dried up, and all of the animals had to come and congregate around one specific one, which happened to be gaming. Yeah, it's very interesting, and I'm sort of picturing a bunch of parents now begging their children to play more video games rather than telling them they can't, because It keeps them busy and not running around the house.
That the iPad, right? Yeah, have the
Yeah.
iPad. Just do whatever. Let me
Please.
work. Let me have my meeting in peace.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's going to be it for us today. Thank you all for chiming in and sharing your opinions and how you feel about work from anywhere. Those of you watching, if you have questions for us that you want us to talk about in the future, or just questions in general, or questions about Yodo1, just leave them in the comments. Also, check back. We're going to be doing more of these in the future. We would really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. That really supports the channel. And check out our free courses if you want to check out Yodo1 opportunities or learn more about the gaming industry. You can check those out in the links in the description. So thanks, everybody, and I'll see you guys in the next one.